Welcome. This is Alvin Johns and Jerry DeTilio. We were captains of the 1970 Chomedey Chiefs senior football team that captured the Montreal Championship 50 years ago. We're producing this video to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the championship and is our way of communicating to the players and fans during this 2020 pandemic year. The video is based upon a booklet created by four very talented and energetic public relations members of the team. They are Carl Binder, Valerie Scott, Howard Spungen, and Judy LaFlock. As you will see from the video, what they created was a masterpiece. It is hard to believe that as seniors in high school that they produced something most professionals would have a difficult time doing. Also remember that in 1970 there were no computers, no digital pictures, and the photocopy machine was fairly new. We would like to dedicate this video to the coaches who are no longer with us, the players and our fans, and last but not least, our parents. In addition to the booklet, we have video clips from the 1970 football games between Lachine in the semifinals and the championship game against St. Thomas. I also incorporated clips of Coach Bailey from the 1990 reunion we had with the players from the 69 and 70 team. The coach talks about his memories during the 68 to 71 period. The first clip is about how we named the team the Chiefs.
A couple more. One thing here that I don't have my Alvin's already talked about it. It's the time that got together to make the team. I guess it came about by the fact that when St. Thomas and like another name and that kind of thing. Anyway, we got together in Ken Donaldson's electrical shop. And I'm sure that most of the team was there. I can't really remember. Well, probably was the lunch hour. And we started to decide on what would be the name. And one of them was Chiefs. And I had heard that somebody had told me that the job had a little bit of Indian in it. And I don't know. But that seemed I mean, the job seemed to symbolize the strength of the team. And it was always automatic. And 20 years later, that name is still the name of the team in Chomedey High. Although it's a sad thing that the sports has almost disappeared. But it's still there. In fact, I think even the girls use the term Chiefs as their name. And I'll bet you that there's not one person in Chomedey High knows. They will know. But they probably don't know. I don't know if anybody, not even the Transform, knows how that name came about unless it's all.
The booklet begins with a message from Principal Ron Sharp, read by Tony Grice at the 1990 reunion. Tony is the stepson to Ron and a former Chomedey Chief player in the 1969 team.
But he said, may I, on behalf of the faculty and students of our school community, extend our heartiest congratulations to the players and coaches of our championship football teams. While the rewards of winning a championship are immediately obvious and enjoyed by the players, the more intrinsic rewards of this experience are yet to be deeply appreciated and recognized in the years ahead. Championship teams are built on the personal sacrifices made by both players and coaches and can truly be understood only by those who are closely associated with the team. In all cases, special commendation must be extended to those teachers who so freely and willingly gave of their free time to coach, as well as those members of the athletic department who volunteered their valuable support service. Football traditions have now been firmly established at Chomedey. Players that follow the years to come will be challenged and extended to their utmost by the standards set by those that preceded them. It is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight in the size of the dog. R.D. Ron Sharp. And I think that's a pretty good letter.
Thank you, Tony. This is a picture of Ron in 2005. He's in the middle, and Tony is on the left of the screen. This is a great page to include in a booklet. The coaches encouraged us to play hard and play fair. Some of the words drilled into us were devotion, ambition, strength, pride, sacrifice, and leadership, think, ability, achievement. The players had character and believed in teamwork. We had fun, but we also had the strong desire to be the best. I like the next section of the book. It recognizes the teams leading up to the 1970 team. The first team that we see in the booklet is the 1964 senior team. A couple of players I recognize as Tim Noseworthy and Dave Colcher. Both players had their dad playing with the Alouettes in the 50s. The other player is Ian McCauley. He's a big brother of Peter, who played with us on the 1969 and 1970 team. I remember going to Peter's house on our bike in elementary school and seeing Ian. He looked huge, but is one of the smaller players on the team. You'll notice that this is the only picture that you'll see Coach Bailey without a beard. Next is some of the stars on the 1965 team. The 65 team won the Northeast Division and went to the finals only to lose a very close game to Wagner. Some of the stars on the team is quarterback Malcolm Holtzberg and Jerry Turner as center. We have a young Grant Bingham as quarterback and Phil Seligman as halfback. We have two speedy halfbacks in Mike Bernstein and Joel Seltzer. The final picture is one of the best receivers that played, Bob Davie. I want to do a shout out to the Davie family. They're one of the most talented athletic families that went to Chomedey. We have Bob. Dorothy was our age, and Dorothy excelled in all sports. She was a 1971 Female Athlete of the Year. Then we have Ken, who followed in Bob's footsteps to be an outstanding receiver as well. He was on the junior team that captured the championship in 1970. The next team is the 1968 team. A rebuilding year, only 4 returning players. The rest were not only rookies, but first time players. At least 50% of the team consisted of junior players. I can't imagine the challenge the coaches had to prepare the team. We started off with a few losses, but came on strong at the end of the season. Overall, we had a 4 win out of 7 games. A great learning experience for us team. Some of the stars of the team were Alistair Taylor. The first year playing as a flanker and middle linebacker, Alistair was a key player in 1969 and went on to play amateur football for another 15 years. Our outstanding quarterback and most valuable player was Sam Weisbach. He was incredible, always a smile and a lot of patience for us rookies. I went on to enjoy a couple of years at Sir George playing with Sam on the Georgians. Our most valuable lineman was Norm Allman. He was awesome. He must have loved going against us rookies in Lubbers Lane. I know I wasn't much of a match against him. I believe the 1968 team really sealed the fate of our junior and senior teams for the next 2 years. The next team is 1969. We had an outstanding year, only to lose to St. Thomas in the final minute of the semifinal game. The team had a lot of heart. I remember the sadness in the dressing room after the game. An incredible group. We came together and fielded a very competitive team. Lots of first year players, including yourself, Jerry. The team consisted of only 25 players, with many having to play both offense and defense. I remember recruiting Norm Juror along the way to school one morning. He stuck it out for 2 years. One of my lasting memories was when there was an unusual hitting practice one Saturday late in the season. Loboson complained of a sore arm, Coach Roberts telling him to suck it up. Monday morning, Loboson comes to school with a cast on his broken arm. He still had the cast on it for our team pictures. We have pictures of some of the players. Dave Donaldson was a two-way player, playing both offense and defense. He was also one of the fierce headhunters. We had Tony Grice, a senior who joined the team in a defensive halfback position. In his final game, he had an interception. We were talking about the game a few days later. He mentioned after he caught the ball, the lights went out, everything went black. He just held onto the ball with both hands and ran forward. A great play. Next, we have Michel Gauet. I love this pitcher. What a build, and always joking around. Some of the awards that year went to Michel Gauet as the most valuable lineman. Coach Bailey was so impressed the way he handled Larry Titley during the St. Thomas game. Larry, for your information, went on to play professional football for the next 10 years. Carl Binder received a well-deserved leadership award. Howard Spungen was the most improved player. It was unbelievable how Howard took on the center position. I was the most valuable player that year. This is a joke picture. I never played quarterback, and Leon was never center, but it's a good looking picture. In 1969, the coaches introduced a headhunter group. I have Alistair Taylor, a first year headhunter, and a star member of the 1969 team, to read what a headhunter means. The headhunter is fearless and tough. He enjoys physical contact more than the glories of a touchdown. He is a symbol for the Chomedey High football and a model for the other players. News reports play up his exploits. The axe symbol flashes across an action photo. The opposition trembles. Through action, he leads his team to victory. The Headhunter. The Headhunters in 1969 were Alvin Johns, Alistair Taylor, David Donaldson, Michel Gauet, and Jerry DiTilio. The 1970 Headhunters increased from 5 to 7. They were Peter Costanzas, Frank Dunn, Jerry DiTilio, Lenny Rapps, Alvin Johns, Leon Caron, and Lloyd Johns. Before we move on to the 1970 team, Coach Bailey talked about the players and the team in the 1990 reunion that I'd like to share with you.
This must have been 68, may have been 69. But it was when Dave Donaldson made it as far as I was concerned. Dave was a slim person when he grew up.
I never knew him that way. Hey, what happened?
All of a sudden, we had some kind of a drill down by the goal line, and God, all of a sudden I could hear a crack. And Dave.
That was Alvin running you over.
No, but you doing your job, and as far as I'm concerned, that's when you made it. Another point where somebody made it was we're watching game films. One of those game films. I think this must have been 68, it could have been 69. But Howard, were you there in 68? So I think it was 68. And we were going over the game film. And you know the game films are there for two reasons. One is to teach you something, to show your mistakes, but also it's to motivate a factor. Well, all of a sudden, Howard comes out of the center position, and he knocks this guy back 6 yards. And I pointed it out. And Howard hadn't done this up to that point, so he must have been 68. And everybody saw that Howard had it. And I knew it. He knew it. And his career was on. That's the way I remember it. The other one, the next thing I remember was when Lenny Rapps came up. He came up about two weeks late.
Yeah.
And Lenny was a big, impressive looking guy that I guess honestly thought that he had already made the team. So in order to put him through the mill, we put him through what we call a tough drill. And we had guys like Alvin and I can't remember who we really right here, but Leon Carroll and Dougie Neversoul, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a drill which really tested him for about 10 minutes of hard hitting. and Lenny stood up, and he made the team right there. I remember really quite vividly. It was 69. We were playing St. Thomas, which has been brought up many times. And personally, I would say the St. Thomas game was the highlight of my high school football career, maybe the highlight of my whole career. Because we had a team which hadn't really proven themselves in the big leagues yet. We had won our league, we thrashed our opposition all through the center. But we hadn't really been able to test ourselves against a good team, a championship team. I remember Chuck Frankel asking me a couple of days before Mr. Bailey, can we win? He just didn't know. I said, sure. Well, I remember when I took you down into the wrestling, it's the old wrestling area. We had a meeting. And I spent, I'm sure, half an hour propagandizing about everything, every advantage we had. And we did have some advantage. And boy, I'll tell you, that game was, to me, a super football game. It really proved that you guys had it. We lost, sure, but it was so fun.
This now brings us to the 1970 City Championship team. We were a loaded team. We had 8 players returning from the 1969 senior team, plus we had last year's juniors, and we picked up a few new players. Our offensive line was very talented. We had the juniors on the right and the returning seniors on the left. 3 of the linemen were headhunters, Peter Casanzas, Lenny, and Leon. We don't have the stats, but I doubt we had many quarterback sacks against us. We added speed with our wing backs and ends. On the right side, we had Byron and Izzy. On the left side, we had Frank and Lloyd, both of whom were headhunters. Billy Chapman joined us in the backfield, and of course, you had a year of experience under your belt. You had an incredible season, Jerry. Here are some of the stats. We were undefeated. We averaged over 50 points a game. We had only 29 points scored against us the whole season. You led the league with 113 points, and that's not including our last game against Dunton. It's good to see that our defensive players scored some points. We finished first in our division. We played Lachine in the semifinals. A few comments I have about the Lachine game. We were so hyped for that game, not a single word was said on the bus. I remember coming off the bus, running to the end zones. We did our warm-ups. We basically shook the building. Coach Bailey prepared us for the game. He identified Keith Hayes as being the fastest guy in the league and a potential game breaker. He didn't last too long in the game. Unfortunate for him, during their first possession, Keith got the ball doing an end run on our side. I tackled him low, you tackled him high. A clean hit. He was helped off the field. Lachine didn't have the same caliber of lineman as we had to block for him. We coasted to an easy victory and a match against our arch rival St. Thomas on the 14th. I have a clip from Coach Bailey of what he remembers of the game.
I remember in 69, both 69 and 70, arriving at Lachine to play them. Again, they were sort of an arch rival at the sort of end of the season. And Ken mentioned the bus. The bus situation is very important. You guys were as quiet and contemplating as you could possibly. Obviously, an environment had been set for you. That you guys were more mature in many ways than some of the professional teams that I've played in that sense. Anyway, what I remember in Lachine was you get off the bus. I wouldn't have to say anything. Alvin and Jerry would take you over. You knew exactly where to go. You knew exactly what to do. And you warmed up, and boy, did you guys look sharp. Not only at the machine, but everywhere you went, you intimidated your opposition just by the way you behave. That is really something that I remember. And you watch, some teams today, you begin to wonder.
Going back, we started the season playing St. Thomas for the Lou Irving Memorial Trophy in an exhibition game. We ended up beating them by 21 to nothing. A couple weeks later, we headed off to Moncton for an exhibition game against Riverdale High. What a trip that was. We took the overnight train and ended up playing the game in the afternoon on the day of arrival. I have Coach Bailey giving us his comments on the trip.
The Moncton game has been mentioned. The train ride down, the train ride back, and the crying girls at the train. I sort of remember that. But the thing that I remember the most, the mistakes, the most things, with you guys, you went on the train, half of you got a little bit of sleep. I imagine. We got off the train, and what did we do? We went to practice. Right from the train, we went to practice. We went to school, we went to practice, and they had to play that afternoon. We had a game, we arrived, around 8 in the morning, let's say. We had a game in the afternoon at 2, and we went to practice before. And there was no complaints. The reason for that, of course, is going to get loosened up, or get your mind directed in another way. And I think we ended up winning 35 to 5.
41 to 1.
No, not Moncton. That's the same problem.
Or whatever, it was a white.
I don't think it.
Well, we partied after that though.
Our teams are great. That team that we beat went on 2 days later and beat the next team by almost 100 points.
That's right. We all went down to see the game. And they averaged 255 pounds in that same zone.
We ended the season and our last game together for the city championship 50 years ago on November the 14th. St. Thomas wasn't much of a challenge that day, winning the game 41 to 1. More about the game in the next section on Vintage 70 by Howard Spungen. The awards for 1970 went to Peter Costanzas as the most valuable lineman. Peter McCauley was the most improved player. He had very big shoes to step into when Howard didn't come back to play. Jerry, you received the most valuable player. Well deserved. You had an awesome season. We have Coach Bailey with some additional comments about the season.
You were a special group. When you went out on that field, I remember playing Dutton, my God, it was like a machine up there. And you would get, they'd kick the bus, and we'd line up, and you'd set up your blocking, you'd mow them down, and you'd touch them. Imagine this. Ken mentioned away game. When we would come back after a game, and we won all those games, the bus would approach Hartsville Bridge, come over and walk to Chomedey Boulevard. And when the kids saw the school, they actually cheered. Now, how many high school kids would actually cheer when they see their no, this is something I remember. And that, to me, meant something. That high school really meant something to you guys.
This next section is an introductory to the players on the team, and we're doing it via a poem called Vintage 70, which was written by Howard Spungen and is read by his son, Jonah Spungen. Enjoy.
The poetry that followeth, I do pray, shall adorn the posterior end of each of you like an up and rising thorn. Vintage 70. It happened in November, as the 14th moon prepared to witness the Chiefs whoop it up to climax a victory pair. 'Twas a sorta chilly morning as each player reviewed his act, Joel Morris poked his nose outside and freezingly, "We gotta play in that?" Well, they didn't chicken from the cold. Turning yellow wouldn't do. They saw green sweaters on the field and vowed to turn them black and blue. But one little problem did occur as Scotty hit the scene. Soberly, he said to the guys, "But I like the color green." Well, this can irk a Karen some when you side with the enemy, but Scotty quickly changed his mind as Leon revved his 63. Jostling and clasping their shoulder pads were the Petes, Lennys, and Norms. Their hips, their thighs, and knock knees covered and cleats on their corns. Then tough and tumble Chomedey ran out onto the turf, like irritated bulls kicking up the muddy earth. Surely St. Thomas must have had a hearty laugh, watching Frank stumble like a three-legged calf. "And with the Frenchman accent that Ralph speak for sure to go at. Let's go out and hit those guys. We beat them good, you bet." It was great watching the guys out there on the field as the fellows in green were painfully killed. But not all the gruesome details of torture were inflicted with effortless ease. Sometimes the anger of a wreathing tornado can become just a yawn of breeze. Go out and get that guy with the ball. So Naki runs, then trips and falls. He was told to scramble, to go out and cream him. It's not his fault he couldn't see him. Now Naki, next time you gotta play, think of the team and be fair. We realize that spectacles are your desire. Now Izzy would lend you his broken taped pair. Until Lenny P, we all decree and award the fickle finger of fate. He returned to battle to get his revenge when Coach Roberts fixed his finger hinge, for he said, "Coach, Lipinski don't wait." The guys in the backfield were having their problems every time they hit the line of scrimmage. It wasn't exactly the guys in green, but the guys in white that were ruining the image. Instead of engine number 9, the 807 was really flying. Once like a bull, because he was hit with a stone, he charged the line like an angry cyclone. After the play, 15 yards later, Alvin turned and angrily cried, nostrils wide and burning pride, "Who's guilty?" But every soul in white denied. If only one player on our team would score, it wouldn't be bad, except we had many, and more. Right from the engine to the fighting tail end, we had more punch than any liquor could rend. The frustrated green were calling for a noose. They wanted to hang our little caboose. For whenever they saw Bill with the ball, they cried, "It would be fair if only he'd crawl." Calling the powwows out on the field, our centers are tough, not an inch do they yield. Resisting all, they call the huddle. "Quiet, Detilio, now get in the puddle." After the break, while the signals were hollered, Frank jeered at the end and bet an easy $1. Jerry veered behind the line, anything but stark. Our wingback turned the corner. Jerry passed when Byron barked. But Byron had his fingers buttered. The ball just slipped right through. Jerry cocked his head and said, "I told him to use glue." But the problems for our quarterback always did exist, like bawling out Castanis for all the blocks he missed. But Headhunter Pete did not like defeat. "St. Thomas, get out of my way. Either let me through or I'm busting you." They didn't have very much say. Robert cringed and looked away. Joel buried his head in the mud. Eric looked stunned but stared with glee. "Wow, look at all that blood." They pitied the poor guys wearing the green as forearms cracked them down. Castanis, Raps, and Leon were busy maliciously bruising them to the ground. Suddenly the gun went off. Lloyd leapt in the air insane. That was the hardest thing he did since the very start of the game. "Slap me 5" was the call as all jumped on one another with glee. The hardest hitting of the day was done in that moment of ecstasy. The guys tried to shoulder the coaches, a stubborn battle against inertia. The closest thing that they accomplished was a case of double hernia. Only one coach was able to hit the upper atmosphere. Mr. Donaldson was up with a single hand and a simple cheer. The trophy was brought out and given to the team. All the guys tried to act in the 30-second scene. A picture was taken for the winners of the clash when Wally yelled, "Hold it! You missed my mustache!" Dirty, sweaty, and stripping boys pounded into the dressing room. The noise erupting from within the walls gave competition to the sonic boom. Among the champagne and chocolate cake, war whoops stung the ears, sweat rolled in the dust. The Chiefs drowned themselves in lust, and someone sent out for beer. In the meantime, everyone reached and grabbed for the effervescent wine, the stuff that helps one celebrate and makes one's spirits climb. Yuck, man, this is terrible stuff. And take it from a guy who had more than enough. But man, it's great, whooped Norman O. Maybe next year I'll give it another go. But Norman wasn't the only one who boldly downed a guzzle. Coaches or not, George was wrought as he poured it through his muzzle. Why, Raps was ecstatic. His nose was aglow, a dressing room joke, and he started the show. Wally cracked up and half rolled on the floor. Another Raps special, Walt cracked up some more. And there was Houghton, open full throttle, smacking his lips and hitting the bottle. The odd air bubble filtered his nose, his bloodshot eyes tickled his toes. Mr. D lit his peace pipe and stroked his Van Dyke chin. Overcome, he clicked his muckluck heels and joined in the hollering din. Flash was sloshed out of his mind, kissed the trophy, swooned, then pined. Our speed demon of the kitty cars settled down and sang a few bars. As the blues eked out and choked in the air, Grievous sipped champagne as it dripped from his hair. Billy's face began to wilt. Peter moaned and buried his face in his kilt. Jerry's face was a platinum silk. We'd be damned to know where he got his milk. Then suddenly a thunderous roar boomed and pounded, then shook once more. The laughter dimmed out and old John looked lost. He bellowed, "Who's got my jelly tots?" Well, buddy, how the place went wild. That guy can sure crack a joke. Then Corber tried, and the guys almost died. His fell like a beaded egg yolk. Stripping down to his yellow shorts, Dougie yelled out, "Where are the quarts?" But to his dismay, only pints were left some. Ralph saved the day, deftly slipping him one. And then the presentation came. The guys clammed up, the squalor tamed. Macaulay not a minute to stall, from the chiefs to the biggest chief of all. And there in his hands Pete flashed a prize, a feathered headdress that caught all eyes. Mr. Bailey, his plumage donned, looked about at his braves, winners all along. Instantly a whooping cheer, all in accordance to soak him in beer, for all the champagne was long gone. 'Twas odd to see our Mr. Bailey without his faithful toque. Most of the guys who saw the disguise had to take a second look. He thanked the boys with exalted pride and stood with his feather decor. "Okay, boys, I'll have a swig." But alas, there was no more. The guys were singing and living it up, and they drank each bottle to the very last drop. As the firewater trickled right, the guys discovered what was meant by drip dry. Colors flared, civvies knotted the scene. Getting dressed was a bother to Pinsky, slipping green. Purple, orange, and sky blue rang. Frank's pink got the longest stare. But all continued getting dressed, for this was only their underwear. The steam was lifting from the showers. Throats were sore, no one could yell louder. Then Phil's announcement was happily heard. "The bus is here! Our thirst can be cured!" Then, as they trampled out the door to get to their favorite brewer, an excruciating ouch was heard as someone stepped on Jewer. Hidden there among the debris, scattered on the floor, nobody could see the little fella as they stampeded out the door. But as the guys piled into the bus and fought for a choice of seat, Manager Doug was cleaning up, and that alone was another feat. Towels were strewn amongst the benches, socks still stained the air, champagne drippings on the floor, and a tear from the only squaw there. The only girl on our team, our private PRG, cried quietly in the halls, ignoring her fame of ubiquity. Valerie, our most ardent fan, didn't let her warmth Peter. She braved the cold like no man can. That's why they call her the heater. And we mustn't forget another fan who was also hot and burning. Stuck at home all red in bed, Carl's fever was busy curing. Returning home, we used the phone to tell him we had won. A sudden snarl. It was Carl. I knew it all along. A lot of things happened by winning that game. The start of a very long Chomedey reign. The pride of knowing St. Tommy was beat, and Izzy went back to watching Sesame Street. One could just see the pride of the players as they skipped along the halls and bounced down the stairs. One looked out for Phil as he straddled the railing. Eric knows, for he was sent sailing. George looked puzzled. Leon's mind grew damp. Greg doubtfully asked, "Are we really the champs?" All the guys knew that they must crack the books, but between all the pages the girls got looks. How could Brian study math all the time when all the girls round had programs to sign? So off they went to scribble their names, each guy just a little insane with fame. Injun wrote Sir Lloyd W.B. on any program that he could see. Judy stared at Pete furiously as he signed another girl's Sir Andrew MIP. During off-season, some tackled a mat. Others said that they were through. Some ended up bouncing balls or pucks, and one said, "Pooh bah to you." 'Twas a dismal day. The snow was light. The tribe was sittin' in the calf. Most of us had nothing to say. Some were trying to dig up a laugh. Sleepy-eyed Gordy was dreaming of a bike, while Scotty looked puzzled. "I've no girl to fight." Alvin pondered, then recalled the time he was hit with a stone last season. A muffled giggle, the fatal sign. To laugh, we had good reason. Alvin yelled and Nether Soul wailed. We all realized just who threw it. "I didn't mean it," Dougie quailed. "The devil made me do it."
Jonah, this is remarkable to have a father and son team presenting this poem. Your dad wrote this poem. It's priceless, a lasting memory to all who were on the team. You made this extra special. Jonah is a classical singer. When the pandemic is over, he will be performing in the Toronto area. I hope to see him sing someday. Thank you once again. Before moving on, Coach Bailey made some comments about the poem at the reunion. Here it is.
I also remember after the 70 season that the amount of work that Carl and Howard and Val and Judy did, all behind the scenes, secret. Nobody knew what was going on. And it was in my office. In fact, I have a picture of it. And it's kind of off my office. That's something I remember. The experience which I remember was when the year was over, we won a championship, and we had a group setting up a tremendous award night, and then Howard got up and read that poem. That, to me, is something I'll never forget. Interesting memory was after the final win in the Gun Stadium, in the dressing room, when Peter McCauley handed me that headdress. I'll never forget that. And I look at the headdress, it's up here. It's a little bit brown now. I wonder whether he had some help making that or not, but it's well made. It's really an interesting piece of work, and I really treasure that piece. I don't think I've ever really thanked him for that. So that's been up in my study for 20 years. Got a little dusty at times.
Next is a message from the coaches, Coach Bailey, Roberts, and Donaldson. Dave Donaldson, the son of Coach Donaldson, will read the message. Dave played on the 68 and 69 team and was a headhunter. The message is, the winning attitude is still important. Winning results from excellence, and excellence results from devotion, sacrifice, and yes, hard work, the old values, which obviously you must feel are still worthwhile. However, of all the values you gain out of football, possibly the most important is the experience itself. Those long punt returns, the crushing blocks, the gang tackling, lover's lane, the Moncton trip, tense bus trips, dressing room antics, camaraderie, beating St. Thomas, and being the best, they will not be forgotten. It has been a great year for you and us. The challenge for the coaches was not so much in winning the games, that was too easy, but in striving to teach the players to reach their potential as individuals and as a team. The school has gained from your efforts and success. The model you have set will motivate our teams of the future. We hope you can develop the same type of commitment towards your personal goals. Ken Donaldson, John Roberts, and Ray Bailey. Thank you, Dave. The coaches meant so much to us. They were our inspiration. I don't know how they did it, year after year, training new players. They loved the sport, and we loved playing for them. We were so fortunate to attend Chomedey with the diversity of students and teachers, a strong athletic program, and I guess the academic classes were good too. We were good students, never having to challenge the teachers academically. We do have a number of Chomedey Chiefs from the 69 and 70 team that have left us much too early. I would like to recognize their contribution, thank them for being part of our lives, and to pass on our sympathies to the families and friends. The coaches and players that have left us are Coach Bailey, Coach Roberts, Coach Donaldson, our manager and friend Carl Binder, our halfback in the 69, Bill Chapman, our center and most improved player in 1970, Peter McCauley, our center most improved player in 1969 and poet Howard Spungen, our tackle and most valuable lineman in 1969, Michel Gouet. I sure wish that these people were here today to share in the video. Rest in peace. On a happier note, and included in the video are two occasions after graduating from Chomedey that I would like to share. In December of 1978, four of us got together at Alistair's parents' place. Jerry was playing for Calgary at the time. Alistair was playing amateur ball in Toronto. Howard was just finishing his career with McGill as captain and playing for Charlie Bailey and Ray Bailey. I was playing father with our firstborn, that was one at the time. We made reference to the reunion of 1990. The final pictures are the members that attended the reunion. I want to do a shout out to Wally Bourne for organizing our reunion and presenting Coach Bailey with a plaque as the top chief of all. It was awesome to see and talk with the coaches, players, and spouses after 20 years. This video was only made possible because of the excellent work of our public relations folks in preparing this booklet. So thank you very much, Howard, Val, Judy, and Carl. It is priceless. As Chomedey Chiefs, we continue to share the memories that we've created, and glad we had the opportunity to share this video with you. I would also like to thank Alistair, Tony, Myra Schuster, Lloyd Johns, and Rick Corrali for their contribution in making this video. Like always, the final word comes from the coach. Here's the final clip from Coach Bailey.
Winning may not be evident, and I agree with that, but it's important. You guys won. The 1971 team lost in the final. Very, very close game. And after that game, the kids couldn't believe it. But they, when I come down the hall, they stood with the motivation. That's how hard it was for them. And you guys have been able to carry on. My father played on the 1919 McGill team, and all through my life, I heard everything about this 1919 McGill team. They used to get together. So you really have something going for it. Thank you very much.